So for this month's throwback rotation, we are in Eightfold Abyss Azvaldt, and as a moderate Barbaros fan, I have taken it upon myself to attempt to climb the Grandmaster using only Loot Sword. Since it is in throwback rotation, we only really need 5,000 points to get the Grandmaster, as opposed to 10,000 that it used to require in the past. But also we only have 1 month, but I mean, it's half the requirement, so this should be possible, I think. And now at this point you might be wondering, Loot Sword? How is that even gonna be a challenge? That deck's broken. And you're kind of right. It's been a top meta deck for a decent amount of its lifespan in rotation, but the Eightfold Abyss Azvaldt mini expansion specifically is a time where it actually fell from being a top meta deck. I mean, if we look at this tier list here, it used to be tier 1, but now it's dropped all the way down to tier 2. Okay, that's not actually that bad, so this should be fine, right? Surely nothing can go wrong. So first, let's talk a little bit about how this deck works. So the main premise is that you spend your early game generating, playing, and fusing these token spells which are called loot cards, and then later on this will activate your loot payoffs which you can use to finish the game. The deck's main strengths are its early game aggressive potential, its relatively high amount of healing, and its fairly high levels of burst damage in the late game. However, while the deck is good at these things, it's not good at them to like a completely game-winning, overwhelming degree. The early game for this deck is pretty strong and aggressive, and you can definitely win some games of pure aggro play like on turn 5 or 6. But it's also important to note that the current meta decks have a lot of huge swing cards that can turn the game around instantly, and if you overcommit to your early game aggressive game plan, you might find yourself suddenly losing the game of one like Howling Demon or something. Similarly, while this deck does have quite a bit of healing, a majority of the healing tools are actually tied behind certain conditions that really only make them active in the mid to late game, so you can still find yourself losing to early aggro, and also some of the top decks especially output huge amounts of damage, and sometimes even trying your best to heal will not let you keep up with the sheer amount of damage they put out. And finally, while the burst damage can be quite high, even outputting full 20 damage OTKs in towards the late game, a lot of these bigger burst damage cards, especially Barbaros and Octrus's token spell, require a lot of setup, which makes them only really active in the mid to late game. Barbaros especially only has her enhance active from turn 7 because you need 7 play points to use it, which can sometimes feel like a bit too slow for the game when you're playing against decks that can output damage at really high speeds. Now, to be clear, this deck is definitely a strong deck. It is still tier 2 for a reason and has spent a good amount of time in tier 1 for a good reason. It is a strong deck, it can do a lot of things. However, I haven't gotten to the biggest problem with playing this deck, and that is skill issue. I'm only half joking. This deck has a reputation for being the hardest sword deck to play in the history of the game, and for good reason. There's a lot of complex decision making when playing this deck, from how aggressive you want to go, when and whether you want to play your loot cards, and what to fuse. And these small decisions throughout the game can make the difference between losing and winning the game. If you're trying to just win a ton of games as quickly as possible, it's not very recommended because you will just fry your brain doing it. There's like a hard limit on how many games you can play before your brain just dies from all the thinking you have to do when playing this deck. And also sometimes you just run out of time thinking because the turn is too hard to play. And if you didn't know, I'm actually pretty bad at this game. This is not like some like self-deprecation or something. Genuinely, I don't like thinking too hard when I play games. I just play by feel most of the time, so sometimes my brain is just not putting in the work required to play this deck, which definitely has lost me a very embarrassing amount of games. But that hasn't stopped me before, so without further ado, let's finally get into the actual deck and gameplay.
So at the end of my attempt, this was the list that I was playing. In terms, most of it are pretty standard cards. In terms of personal choices, we're running Bumpkin Recruit as a 2-off. I mean, it's just a 1 cost that draws more into the deck. It's basically a deck thinner, which I'm a big fan of, so I run 2 copies. Some people run 1, some people just cut it all together. I like to run 2. We're running 3 Lupin. We're maximizing loot generation by running 3 Lupin, 3 Thief. Some people run less. And then we are running the 1 of Lyrala here. There's a lot of other tech cards you could run, like Serration Wave. I like Lyrala, I just like the healing and the damage shield. Damage shield can come in pretty handy as well, and doesn't really hurt to have more healing in this meta. So we run 1 Lyrala here. Eggless Gambit is at a 2. It's just being able to draw cards, it generates loot, and it also has a chance to let you high roll by discounting cards. You can discount Maximus and play him on turn 4 going second or something like that for some very insane high rolls. And then Opulent we run as a 1-off. Normally, I mean 1 is pretty standard for Loot Sword nowadays. Some people run 2, we can't run 3. Unfortunately, as much as we like 3, because Opulent is such a broken card. But because of Maximus' ability to summon a random 3 play point follower, we want to maximize the consistency of pulling Octris or Stormwreck first mate, so unfortunately we just have to cut Opulent down to 1. The fact that we're still running 1 at all tells you how good this card is. So those are the personal choices. The rest of these cards are pretty standard Loot Sword Loot Sword cards. So with that, let's jump into the games. So for our first game for today, we are going against Blood, and we are going first. Blood is one of the 2 top meta decks, of course. Between Blood and Portal, I think Blood is more manageable because we have a decent amount of healing as well as a decent early game which you can use to pressure them. Since they have to ping themselves 7 times, if you can deal like 13 damage, you can kill them. Of course, it's not always going to be that convenient, but yeah. So we're just trying to pressure them early game here by sinking the Tidal Gunner here. There is an argument for holding on the Tidal Gunner in case you want to save it for late game, but since we are going first here, we're going to try to pressure our opponent. That being said, it's worth noting our hand here isn't that good for pressuring, so we have to be careful there. We go ahead and play Lyrala here to protect Tidal Gunner. The ward, the 2-2 ward, the 2 health ward is actually just generally valuable. Of course, we could save her for the damage shield later on, which might become relevant, but Blood has a lot of 1 damage pings with like the Blitzer, Vania's token spell, as well as Velneric's token spell, so the damage shield isn't that valuable. It's pretty valuable basically against Howling Demon, and that's it, but we don't really have a commander to activate that effect on their Howling Demon turn, so yeah, we go ahead and just use the Lyrala here to protect Tidal Gunner, try to get some that value out of it by poking their face. And we save the loot, 1 for fusing into Octris if we need to, and 2 because we don't want to let them pop Maestro here. If we pop the Maestro last turn, there is a chance that they just invoke the Flowers, and we're just not ready for it at this point. So we go ahead and delay their Flowers by 1 turn by leaving the commander alive. We do lose our Gunner, which is a bit unfortunate, but it's fine. At this point, we just need to draw a little bit here, just to try and improve our hand quality a bit. Our hand's looking much better now with Opulent in hand, because we have Maximus to activate our Opulent now. And this Goblet might actually be relevant, so we go ahead and just pass here and hold on to the Goblet. Healing can come in clutch, and even if it doesn't, having more to fuse into Octris will never hurt. My opponent goes for a double Queen's Castle play, which does put them into Wrath, so we have to watch out for Howling Demon next turn. We get Octris here, so we go ahead and evolve the Octris. Evolving Octris, very nice here. Pick up the spell. There's another valuable reason for evolving Octris here, which we'll talk about in a little bit. So here we go ahead and trade here, and as you can see here, I prioritize keeping the Octris at full health instead of the Thief's Ambush. And the main reason for that is, of course, Howling Demon. If your opponent has Howling Demon, it doesn't matter whether this is ambush or not, it's dead anyway. Meanwhile, if your opponent has Howling Demon, we keep this at 6 health, which allows it to survive Howling Demon's fanfare, which means if they want to clear this with Howling Demon, they will have to trade, which puts them in a very risky position. Howling Demon's biggest weakness is 6 health and above followers, so go ahead and put one on board here just to keep them on their toes and make it hard to play Howling Demon properly. So opponent plays the Vania here, which is fine. They're probably going to clear a bunch of our followers. There goes our Octris. They go ahead and clear our Maximus as well. And they go ahead and use Scorching Grandiosity, which will summon 2 bats for them. And then they'll probably clear my Scout as well, and then hit me in the face, yep. And that's a gift for Bloodkin, so they're gonna go ahead and summon one more bat here. And they let me keep that bat apparently, which is, I guess, makes sense. So since we have Octris here, we're gonna go ahead and use Octris to steal the bat here. We have Stormbane and Ward, which is very nice for us. Against Wrath in particular, you really have to think about when to use Octris, because Wrath for some reason just has a ton of effects that are very good to steal with Octris, so watch out for that. So we hold on to the Goblet from back then, we go ahead and use it now to make sure we don't overdraw when we fuse Octris here. So give us a Remnant as well as the random loot from Adherence effect. And we go ahead and fuse into the Remnant here just to draw into our deck. We can go and get some healing here and chip them down with the Octris. Let's Howling Demon from them, but it's a bit too late for that. We already have Barbros in hand. Well, actually we are missing loot for Barbros, but I mean, we don't need to use Barbros at this point. We'll pick up the Deep Sea Scout here so we can go ahead and use that for lethal. We fuse 2 into Remnant to activate its 8 damage effect. And this will also activate Barbarossa's 7 loot effect. We can go ahead and use her Fanfare to, clearing this is not necessary, but might as well. So we go ahead and fuse the Howling Demon here. And we play the second Scout, which will give us flags, and 2 flags plus a Remnant is lethal, so that's it for this game. Let's move on to the next game. So for our second game for today, we're going first again. This is gonna be the Sword Mirror. I mean, it's most likely Loot Sword. There are people out there playing Commander and Rally as well, but I think Loot is the most common. I kept Stormrite First Mate here, which I don't really agree with now, but when I was playing it at the time, I kept Stormrite First Mate. I feel like you should be looking for better early game. And maybe it can help you avoid a hand like this, which is pretty bricky. We pick up the 3rd Maximus here, so we are quite bricked. Hopefully we draw something good. We have to pass first 2 turns, which is generally quite bad. The deadline for generating and fusing loots can be quite tight for this deck, so not being able to generate loots from like turn 2 onwards can be a bit difficult for you. As the Illustrious Thief, this Illustrious Thief cost 1, so we know that they drew it off the Haggler's Gambit that they played last turn. And they do manage to clear our first mate, which is unfortunate, but I was just hoping it would stick on board so I can get some value out of it. Go ahead and play the Metatron here, no reason to play the Necklace or the Gunner. You can save that for later on. The Metatron will just help us protect the little bit of chip damage coming towards our face, potentially with the Illustrious Thief. My opponent is spending their loot, destroying through their deck with the Deep Sea Scout. Thankfully a weak turn from them, we can still come back from this. So Sword! For some reason Sword is very weak at clearing white boards. It's because we don't have like good board wipes. We have like one good board wipe and that's Opulent and that's about it. So we can make use of that weakness of my opponent because we are playing the same deck by going white with Maximus. Maximus is very good against Sword because Sword doesn't have good board clear. We can go ahead and evolve the Octris here, which is great. We can cut her spell and start fusing to draw into our deck. And we hold on to the ambush here because Sword is bad at clearing ambush. And we might be able to get value out of it. Opponent plays their own Maximus. And here comes the Evan Lord and the Wandering Knight, which means that they're playing some kind of rarely variant, which is interesting. It does have better damage potential outside of relying on loot, so I guess that's an option for them. And they go ahead and make use of their storms to hit my face while keeping their white board. So for our part, we just go ahead and play Maximus again. No reason not to, really. And in here we make a bit of a risky play, but we are... I mean, if we look at my opponent... let's let this play out first so I can actually check the information log. Always check the information log, it's important. My opponent is only at 3 loot, so they're very far from outputting damage with Barbaros. They're only at 6 PP as well, so we are quite safe here. So I make a bit of a risky play here. And I don't bother clearing the whole board, instead I discount my Remnant of Hollowness and then just poke them in the face for some damage here. Then my opponent reveals Olivia and Sylvia, which is normally not really good to run in loot, but in this case against the mirror specifically, it's actually pretty nice for having the board clear, which Sword doesn't usually have. And my opponent drops the Lyrala as well, so they're probably playing some kind of a slower version. We want to get rid of the damage shield ASAP, so we go ahead and play the Tidal Gunner. It also helps us clear their board, so that's that. We go ahead and use the Graceful Maneuver here, and then we go ahead and play Pumpkin Recruit as well just to draw into our deck. Unfortunately, by having to take the Graceful Maneuver, we also lose our chance to pick up the Merchant's Appraisal, which is great for both the loot and the evil point recovery, but we sort of need to clear that board at this point, so not much we can do about that. So we got rid of the damage shield and heal ourselves up a bit. But my opponent whips up the Octress here, which will be able to steal my Graceful Maneuver that I put on the Opulent, which means that they will be able to clear my board, which is a bit annoying. We also take some damage to the face here. Definitely don't want to take too much damage to the face. So here we take the Graceful Maneuver back from them since they took it from us. We make use of that. And then we go ahead and use Lyrala to set up the healing as well as the damage shield. Right now their main source of damage is that they have in hand is Remnant of Hollowness and Barbaros if they are holding Barbaros. Both of them are stopped pretty well by the damage shield from Lyrala, so this is a good chance to put Lyrala up. Then we go ahead and try to improve our hand quality here with drawing as well as fusing. And then we go ahead and get rid of their board here. And then we go ahead and heal ourselves up a bit more just to make sure we're definitely safe here. We have Barbaros, we have Tidal Gunner, we have Remnant of Hollowness, so we have some pretty good damage options here. Someone playing Hermit as well, so they're playing a pretty unconventional list, I guess. And there's the Stormwrack First Mate. And then we go ahead and buff the Deep Sea Scout, which is actually annoying because putting this at 2 health means that I can't snipe it with Tidal Gunner. And then they go ahead and make a white board here. And chip some damage to my face with their Pirate's Flag as well. I don't think I had a lethal with like Barbaros or Tidal Gunner here. Actually, I don't even have enough loot, so yeah, they have lethal here. So we go ahead and play the Remnant of Hollowness here. Then we can go ahead and fuse and then play the Deep Sea Scout. So at this point, actually in general, in Azvaldt specifically, Barbaros is pretty good for just her regular 4 cost effect, not relying on the enhance. Because our biggest burst damage from this deck is Remnant of Hollowness. So using Barbaros to clear that board actually results in net value for Remnant of Hollowness, which makes it a bit better. Also, I really need to improve my hand quality here, so we have to unfortunately sync our Barbaros here without using her Storm. Try to draw into our deck to improve our hand so that we can hopefully try to finish that next turn. If we are not dead ourselves, we pick up the Ultimate Hollow, which is definitely very nice. Probably should have played the Ultimate Hollow here, I think. That might have been a mistake, but we go ahead and set up the damage shield as well. My opponent plays their Maximus, which is fine. There's the Opulent, which they will be able to heal with, which is a bit annoying. And there's Ultimate Hollow as well, so they're gonna heal a ton here. And then they go ahead and clear my board as well. And they use Remnant to clear my follower while hitting me in the face. So I'm probably gonna die next turn, so we sort of have to look for lethal this turn. So we go ahead and play the Illustrious Thief here just to get a loot so that we can fuse. If we can draw Barbaros or something off this fusion, it will be very valuable for us. We've got another Ultimate Hollow, which is not super useful, so we go ahead and play our last Maximus. The goal of playing this Maximus is actually to find the Deep Sea Scout so we can use her to draw into our deck to hopefully find lethal. Tidal Gunner will also be valuable, of course. Right here we pick up not super great options here, so we go ahead and try to heal up. My opponent emotes here, so probably because they think they're gonna win at this point. I mean, they do look like they're in a winning position, so I don't disagree there. We can go ahead and trade and hit them in the face to try and survive. Hopefully they don't have like a way to kill us here. They spend a lot of their damage when we're pretty healthy, so hopefully they don't have lethal. There's their Barbaros. And then they're gonna play Errant Hollowness here and the Wandering Knight. So at this point I know I'm still alive, so I mean I am alive, but if you look at my hand, I don't have much going for me right now, so hopefully I can find a way to win the game soon. And go ahead and Pirate's Flag me. And we take some damage to the face as well. So we really have to find lethal here. We pick up Deep Sea Scout, so we're definitely gonna use that to draw into our deck. use the Dread's Pirate's Flag, and then we pick up Opulent here, which is good. Oh, at this point I ran 2 Opulent, I think. I cut it back down to 1, but at this point I was running 2 Opulents, and the second Opulent actually came in clutch here. It gave me loots, and then we fused into Remnant of Hollowness to draw. Pick out Barbaros here, which will just give us lethal, so that's great. We go ahead and fuse into Barbaros so we can evolve for free. It's not necessary here, but might as well, right? Go ahead and evolve here to clear the Barbaros, and then we can just trade it, and then Barbaros' flag with Remnant of Hollowness is nice lethal, so I don't know my opponent. I'm not sure what my opponent emoted here, but we'll just go ahead and thank them for the game, and then we kill them. So that's it for this game. Only 2 games today's video because I don't want it to be too long. So yeah, that's it.
So that's it, right? After 20 plus days of grinding at the ladder, I finally managed to get the Grandmaster with Loot Sword, just as I've always wanted to. Well, not really. You see, I've actually been hiding something from all of you that you might have realized if you noticed the wording of the title as well as how I phrase things specifically in this video, but I didn't actually manage to finish my climb with Loot Sword only. Unfortunately, due to a combination of IRL commitments as well as just an overall lack of motivation to play in this meta, I sort of gave up after 20 days of playing loot. After 20 days, I managed to get like 2.7k points, which is not a pace that is fast enough to get to Grandmaster, so I gave up and I just switched to Wrath Blood, and I finished the climb in 3 days. This meta's dumb. So that's it for today's video. I hope you'll forgive me for scamming you a bit. Well, it's not really a scam, but I mean, it kind of counts as a scam, right? I hope you enjoyed it. If you enjoyed it, make sure to, okay, I don't normally say this, but since I spent like a ton of time and effort on this video, like way more than I usually do for my usual stuff, I will say in this one, if you enjoyed it, it would help if you would like and or subscribe. If you didn't enjoy it, don't bother. It's not getting any better than this, I don't think. Yeah, but that's it for today's video. I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.